Jake Paul lasted longer than Francis Ngannou. Jake Paul deserves so much credit because Joshua was so much bigger. Or not. In this video, I am going to break it down. Ego thoughts. You don't want to miss it. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Ego thoughts. We are back. My series where I get to just freestyle, talk about things I want to talk about. Now, I got to make this video, and some of you guys are not going to like it. I'm hearing a lot of chatter, and we got to put a lot of it to rest, at least here on my channel, the realest channel, Boxing Ego. I'm hearing people say, oh man, Jake Paul lasted 6 rounds. Ngannou got knocked out by Joshua in 2 rounds. And so what is that supposed to really mean, right? The bottom line is both guys got knocked out by Joshua. So it's not really even something to brag about. One guy, because here's the thing. Ngannou wasn't a lifelong boxer. It's not like Joshua fought him in the octagon in a cage. So he wasn't even a lifelong boxer either. So realistically, you can argue, for those that are using that as an argument, Jake Paul has more boxing only experience than Ngannou, because Ngannou's experience is mixed martial arts, MMA, which boxing could be included, striking. However, UFC hands different than boxing hands, right? So Jake has boxing preparation for the last 5-6 years or whatever. Completely different. Ngannou had one fight with Tyson Fury that he lost, even though I thought he won. You know what I mean? And that was largely probably because Tyson Fury didn't take him seriously, for real. So that's not good enough. You know what I mean? People, it's like America is always searching for the great white hope. Triple G, Lomachenko, Conor McGregor, Jake Paul, Tommy Morrison, and so on and so forth. And it's funny because people are so quick to anoint people when they have the complexion for the protection, but they never talk about the double standards, right? Like, you could have Tyson Fury or Lomachenko and they will lose or have a close fight. Then they don't even have to do an immediate rematch. But let a black fighter like Jermell Charlo have a close fight with Castano that ends in a draw. They didn't even give Charlo a win. You never hear the end of it. But Charlo does what other great American champions have done, and he did an immediate rematch, set the record straight with Castano, knocked him out in the rematch. Same goes for Andre Ward versus Kovalev. People acted disgusted that Andre Ward won a close fight with Kovalev, and I was there live, and he won the fight. Even with him getting knocked down once, a knockdown doesn't seal your fate when you have a 12-round championship fight. And Andre Ward did what great champions do, immediate rematch with Kovalev. But Lomachenko loses to Orlando Salido, never rematched him. Loses to Teofimo, they've never rematched. And now Loma's retired, and so on and so forth. Tyson Fury has a draw, close fight with Wilder. Then he flees and signs up with Top Rank and starts fighting Otto Wallin and Tom Schwartz instead of doing an immediate rematch with Wilder while the momentum was there. It's the facts. It's what happened. And now you got Jake Paul, and people are finding all these like little ways to try to give a bunch of credit. My channel, I always keep the same energy. We are not giving participation trophies. Ngannou got knocked out, didn't get his jaw broken, but he got knocked out worse. Jake Paul, the first flush punch landed by Joshua for real, put him down, broke his jaw in 2 places, and he got knocked out. So why are we scoreboard keeping for two of Joshua's victims because one lasted longer? And here's the other thing, and the other problem with that argument. This whole concept of Jake Paul lasted longer, it is easier to do when you won't engage. Like Ngannou, he tried to have the head up fade, believing in his power, and he just got outclassed by the lifelong boxer. But he stood his ground trying to get something going. Yeah, you spin the wheel, you roll the dice, that's what could happen. Jake Paul was running around the ring for the first 4 rounds for sure. And then rounds 5 and 6, it looked like he kept falling and rolling his ankle, and he was tired. So it got to a point where he couldn't be as mobile, and that's where Joshua really found his way. So I can't compare these two. Like, one guy lasted 6 rounds, one guy only went 2. When one guy was coming to fight and just got knocked out, the other person talked all this trash about, I'm going to knock out Joshua. He's lanky. He's good for nothing. He got no chin. Had all his homies, all his streamer homies, Aiden Ross, DDG, Neon, believing in him, betting on him, right? That don't know boxing. All these streamers that don't know boxing, had them betting their 100,000, 5 million or whatever. Drake bet on him. All these people lost their money because they don't know boxing. So one guy was in survival. It's always going to be harder for a Joshua or anybody to pin someone down in a big ring. That was also a 22 by 22 foot ring. That was a big ring. So to be honest, Ngannou went out the warrior way. He didn't trash talk, and he just got knocked out trying to stand his ground against a lifelong boxer. It happens. Jake Paul, people are trying to give him a bunch of credit for scrambling and doing football routes for much of the fight, and then taking a punch and getting dropped and getting up on a 9 count when you know you're going to get counted out and having a broken jaw. If the fight would have continued, because he got up at like 9, if the fight would have continued, he would have been in the world of hurt, and that broken jaw could have gotten a lot worse. So it was really a dumb fight. But the point I'm making is, you see the fans, the race fans in old media, this is what they live on. They have a MAGA influencer fighter like Jake Paul, and now they're trying to turn him into a hero. You got Andrew Tate, same deal. They're trying to turn, oh, he tried, at least he tried. But when it's a black fighter, how come people don't say at least he tried? And all this other stuff. He gave it a go, and, you know, at least he found out. How come they don't do that? Like when Wilder lost to Tyson Fury, these same individuals, they wasn't on that. They wasn't like, oh, but Wilder gave it a go. He really pushed for the second and third fight in the trilogy with Tyson Fury. Let's give him a lot of credit. But then Jake Paul, they're like, oh, but he tried. We're not doing that over here. You didn't live up to what you said. You got paid a pretty penny for it. Your career, who knows what's next, but you took a nasty spill. So I'm not trying to hear no, he lasted longer than Ngannou, because again, it's easier to last longer when you're not engaging and you're trying to survive and running around and occasionally throwing the desperation Hail Mary. Ngannou wasn't on that, and he met a different fate for that reason. Moving on. Jake Paul has told everybody, I am a boxer. I'm all in. I got boxing coaches, a boxing gym, boxing lifestyle. So we got to grade his performance as that of a boxer. You can't see, this is what I don't accept. I don't do participation trophies. You can't have a boxing career, but then be 1 foot out and 1 foot in. And then you're 2 feet in when Jake Paul's knocking people out. But when you lose to Tommy Fury, oh, I was sick. You're not the first boxer to be sick and have to fight through a cold, right? When you get knocked out in a broken jaw, oh, he was so much bigger. It wasn't a skill gap. It was a size gap. You knew how big the man was. right? And it didn't matter. More double standards. So we've talked about the double standards, the glaring ones. Like when Jake Paul is moving and running, none of the race fans are calling Jake Paul a runner. They try to keep that integrity when you have the complexion for the protection. Nobody calling the man a runner, but then if a Cuban or black fighter like William Skull fights Canelo and he's moving a lot, he a runner. Edis Lara fought Canelo, he a runner. Some people watched Terrence Crawford whoop on Canelo and still try to say that Crawford was running. Floyd Mayweather fights Canelo and stood right there in front of him. Some people, because he's black, they still try to say that Floyd ran from Canelo, right? Shakur Stevenson, Zepeda, Devin Haney, all these black fighters get called runners and they be right in front of the opponent for large portions of the fight. Jake Paul is actually running to the point where he rolls his own ankle by gliding backwards, moonwalking, after showboating, sticking his tongue out, selling the fight and saying that Joshua is chinny and he gonna knock him out and it's God's will and this is his destiny. It's been written already. All this stuff to hype up the fight. I get it. You're a showman, but you said all this stuff to hype up the fight, and now it's he only lost because Joshua was so big, he need to move down to cruiserweight. But what about this? What about when Jake Paul was fighting Nate Robinson and he was bigger? What about Jake Paul when he was fighting Ben Askren, who also is not, none of them guys I just mentioned are actual boxers. None of them, right? They don't have boxing hands. They're not boxers. Ben Askren is a wrestler in the MMA. And these are the people that he fought. And again, nobody cared. Nobody was like, yo, Jake Paul is so much bigger than pretty much all of his opponents. Pretty much. So I find the double standards very iconic, very ironic. When Jake Paul is fighting someone that he's bigger than for most of his career, if not all of his career, except for maybe a handful of fights. Like, look, here's him and Tank. He literally squatted on his knees, like put his hand on his knees to show and look Tank eye level, and to, like, he had to stoop down to look eye level with Tank. And this is what I'm talking about with the race fans. When it's a black fighter, so again, Jake has told everyone he's an actual boxer, and we respect that. Cool. But then when you're fighting a black fighter, he's 135 pounds, probably could make 130, at a major weight deficit, and you were about to fight him, right? Way bigger than him, and you were about to fight him, and you didn't care, and none of the boxing fans actually cared that Jake Paul looked this much bigger than Tank Davis and outweighs Tank Davis. But then when Jake Paul is at a weight and height deficit, finally fighting somebody who we can say for sure is bigger than him, a 6'6" monster in Joshua, now we're supposed to have a different level of compassion and view the fight different. Oh, he's so bold. But how come people weren't saying that to Tank Davis, being a 130 pounder, putting his career and image on full display and putting that up to the challenge by facing someone who is a big puncher, has good power at that weight. He's knocked out some people, and he's been boxing for long enough to the point where he's being ranked, and Tank is giving up so much weight, right? He was giving up so much weight to fight him. But nobody wants to talk about these things except for boxing ego. You see the size difference right there, right? This look crazy. So why are we giving Jake Paul a bunch of like, oh, he showed massive heart. Why is it the small violins and the sympathy for him because he finally fought someone bigger in Joshua, right? But his whole career, he'd been fighting people for the most part that he was bigger than. And for real, if you look at the size of him, the size of his arms, Tank looks smaller. Like if we have a percentage ratio, Tank look way smaller. Like Tank go up to maybe his shoulder or whatever, his eyes. So he looked smaller obviously than Joshua, but it didn't look too crazy. It didn't look no worse than Tank or Nate Robinson, two people that Jake Paul fought. So that's the point I'm making, bro. You can't be in boxing and say you're the face of boxing, you're an ambassador for boxing, so on and so forth. And then you play by the rules until you lose. And then now we got to grade you on a curve. That's not going to work for me. You know what I mean? I'm not doing that for him or nobody else, right? You're a boxer. You played the game. You spun the wheel. You made a lot of money. Got your jaw broken. Lost. I'm not going to baby you the one time it don't play out because there was nobody babying the smaller people who really weren't experienced in boxing that Jake Paul was fighting, like MMA fighters. For real. So now that you got crushed up a bit by a bigger person, we're supposed to look at it and put the kid gloves on. It's like bowling. When you bowl with kids, you put the little gutters up so they can't get a gutter ball. I don't do that. On my channel, we bowling for real. There ain't no barriers, and you can get a gutter ball if you don't roll the ball right. Pause. It is what it is. So that's me. That's on my channel. I stand by that. I stamp that message. And I feel like America is always looking for the great white hope where they want to view it differently. Like Trump is like, he didn't say one thing about Joshua. He talking about, oh, Jake Paul, he was fighting someone so much bigger. Okay, this is what he chose to. Him and Netflix, they picked it. Why do you want him to be baby now? You know what I mean? And then when these other fighters, Jake Paul fought smaller guys, except for Joshua and Tommy Fury. Those are the two people where they were either younger or just as big and pretty. Like Tommy Fury, he looked like a bodybuilder almost. You know what I mean? So he got some height and he got some size. Pause. Right? So that was one fighter where you didn't look like you were just like it didn't look like Tank and Jake Paul, right? I'll pull it up for you guys. Look, you looking at him eye to eye, he's about your size. Maybe you're a little bit bigger, right? But he got some size and mass to him, right? And you lose that fight. This is the fight you lost. This is the fight you lost to Tommy Fury. So I don't know why they made, to be honest, I don't know why they made this fight, because I think this really hurt Jake Paul's progression. Because, yeah, you made a lot of money and you did it in one night really quick, but it also exposed you a bit. You know what I mean? Because when you're fighting somebody who is a boxer, we know him primarily from boxing. Yeah, Tommy Fury's done Misfits and reality shows, but he comes from a fight family, and he's about your size. You lose that fight. And then when you fight Joshua, who we know is a true boxer for sure, you get knocked out. And here's the thing, Joshua didn't even look splendid to me. It was just pretty much round 5 and 6 when he started to hone in, and when Joshua actually landed, literally one punch broke his jaw. One punch. It wasn't even like you were getting hit with so much craziness. The one punch pretty much did it. Your mouth was open. Everybody knows in boxing, you can't have your mouth open like that. And you look like this, deer in headlight, Joshua cocked back, loaded up. I wouldn't even say that was Joshua's hardest punch. I've seen some Joshua punches land, and I'm like, dang. Like what he did to Ngannou, that looked way worse. The punch he landed with Jake Paul, it landed for sure, but he looked like he put more mustard on it in some of his other fights. Like he looked like he was trying to off an unalive Dillian White, Charles Martin, Klitschko. He literally hit the uppie on Klitschko, and his whole head went up like a Pez dispenser. So it looked like he took it easy on Jake Paul to me. But ego thoughts, the overall message in this video, which we fully stand by, is we're not watering down the commentary because it didn't work out for you. You know what I mean? And we're not playing by these double standard rules where a black or a Cuban fighter move and they're moving strategically. Like Edeslani Lara ain't never ran in the fight where he's just running around trying to survive and not throwing no offense. Jake Paul talked all this about Joshua and looked like he was solely trying to survive. It didn't look like he was trying to win rounds. It looked like he was trying to make it to the end without getting your jaw broke. But unfortunately, Joshua had other plans. And I really don't know where Jake Paul goes from here, because broken jaw, you potentially might not be the same. But beyond that, it's kind of over, in my opinion. Like in terms of who do you fight? Like you were talking about getting ranked and fighting Terrence Crawford, fighting Tank Davis, fighting Canelo Alvarez. I don't feel like after people seen you with your second real boxer, how it played out, I don't feel like those fights are really hot right now. You know what I mean? Especially coming off a broken jaw and stuff. So now you're going to have to step it down and fight people who are way smaller, MMA fighters, novelty fights, people who aren't like experienced like Joshua type of boxers, can't be bigger than you, all that type of stuff. So I don't know. I don't know. I feel like your Netflix partnership, they're going to probably want spectacles and big events. And I don't know you can give them that with like cherry pick type fights. And even Canelo, when he was with DAZN, when he was cherry picking, DAZN got to a point and they're like, nah, you got to give us some real fights. Like we don't want these, we need premium opponents. Because again, who's going to be paying large sums of money for fights that don't draw an audience? And there's really no reason for Jake Paul Joshua rematch. So who do you fight? I mean, I guess you could do a rematch with Tommy Fury, but it's not really a big fight. You would probably have to take that to the UK. I don't see you doing great numbers on Netflix in like Vegas with a Tommy Fury fight. You already said you would never work with Gervonta Davis. He's unprofessional. That fight fell apart. We don't know if he wants to even work with you. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But all the excuses are very laughable, because Andrew Tate and Jake Paul lost back to back, and they're pushing the red pill and alpha male MAGA type of energy. And it's funny because all that stuff that was being affirmations and goal setting and don't let your woman talk back to you and put the woman in the kitchen, all this type of behavior. And this is what was being said in their monologues, like by and large, or at least with some of them. And now it looked crazy. Andrew Tate talking about, oh, you got to be a masculine man. And I don't care if a guy came up to me and my friends with a machete. You should. The way he was fighting Chase Damore, if a dude had what's more dangerous, a guy wielding a machete or how Chase Damore was fighting you? And you were getting hit with like cartoon punches, right? At least Jake Paul lost to an Olympian who was bigger. Andrew Tate was getting hit with like Shoryukens. Like he was getting, it looked weird. It was like Chase Damore 12 feet out, and he was throwing these like Balrog, like it was weird. It was starting from the ground, like below his waist, and he literally was just punching up, right? And it looked sloppy. It looked mad ugly. It looked like the craziest uppercut I've seen in like a real fight, a sanctioned fight or whatever, right? Like some true Mike Tyson, ding, 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 punch out. and somehow it was catching Andrew Tate. He was catching him with them. So I don't know. It was a rough weekend for the MAGA influencer fighters. And on my channel, I got to keep it real. And here's the thing. Now people don't want me to attach what they've been peddling and pushing in their career. They don't want that attached to the loss or the L. But it don't work that way. Not on my channel. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't come out to Hulk Hogan, you know, who has the N-word tape and push all this Donald Trump rhetoric, and Andrew Tate, you know what he been saying and what he been on. And I got a Bugatti and all this type of behavior. And then when you get cooked, we're supposed to look in the comment section. They cooking, especially Andrew Tate. There's memes about Jake Paul, but I think people at the end of the day, they still respect the fact that he fought a real person. Andrew Tate, his situation, you lost to a misfit like level fighter. So at least Jake Paul, I will give him credit for that. He can say he lost to an Olympic gold medalist who was big and punching. And you know, although he has a broken jaw, it is what it is. But Andrew Tate, I don't know. His situation a little bit different. Let me know what you think. I'm out. Live streaming can be tough, which is why I use StreamYard. Click the link in the description for StreamYard, which is an awesome tool that enables you to set up your stream with ease of use. Get great results with live streaming. It's what I use. Stream to social media with ease with StreamYard. Live streaming is here to stay. Engage with your audience using StreamYard. Great way to reach out to your audience and connect. So you need a tool that can do that. If you're new to YouTube and you're struggling to get views, one tool I can provide to you is TubeBuddy. I've been on YouTube over 10 years. I use TubeBuddy daily to crank out videos just like this one that you're watching. Learn how the pros do it with TubeBuddy. YouTube receives a lot of traffic, which also means a lot of creators, a lot of people putting out content. So you need to learn the ropes so you know how to separate yourself, especially if you're new, but even if you're a pro, use TubeBuddy. The link is in the description. Get more views, more subscribers, and a higher click-through rate, so ultimately you can realize all of your online goals. Use my affiliate link in the description and grow your channel fast.